I want one.
No.
Hello everyone and welcome to Action RPG. I'm your host Aaron, and for today's video we're headed to the world of Last Epoch. This is Dev Chat 165 Part 2. Now if you didn't see Part 1, I will link it at the end of this video. It's 25 minutes of Season 2 Update 1.2 gameplay, Carve basically just going off the rails, and it is absolutely glorious. Now for Part 2, what we're going to be talking about is the nitty-gritty, the actual detailed answers that EHG gave Gazzy, and Gazzy had some awesome questions. I will also link Gazzy's entire interview in the description below. So we're going to jump into this first question, and just Gazzy says it the perfect way. We're going to knock out the elephant in the room. Everybody's talking about it. GGG dropping PoE2 update 02044. What are your thoughts?
You guys have been spammed. I've been spammed. Everyone's talking about it. I was going to get rid of the elephant in the room, and that is obviously the scheduling. 2 days after you guys are launching, PoE2 is coming out. What's the take here? Like, what's the how do I read this room? Because everyone's kind of upset about it.
Yeah, we're disappointed along with everyone else on this, and we're just focusing on our season 2 right now, and just building the hype and excitement for what we've got coming out. That's our big focus right now.
That sounds good.
Yeah, we got good stuff coming in, so it's worthy to get excited for. So
Yeah,
I'm not disappointed, but yeah.
Oh, of course. I mean, I've been trying my best not to spill the beans on the CT stuff.
That's literally all they say. So they don't say, hey, we wish GGG the best. Hey, it's business. They both openly agree that they're disappointed, like so many other people, not only content creators, not only the studios, but the gamers, the people that enjoy Last Epoch and PoE2. It's going to be very hard to balance those out. But I will say this interview pretty much solidifies that there is no change in date. So Last Epoch will be dropping Season 2 Update 1.2, Tombs of the Erased, April 2nd. Now, EHG is about to give us a very long answer on Ward versus Health, and just know Ward is definitely getting reeled in.
Approach comparing health versus ward, and we've been existing in this pendulum swinging back and forth. We had this huge life meta, and then it swung back to ward meta, and then we was back to life meta, and then we're back in ward again. So what's the approach?
It's been ward for a very long time.
Approach of available toolkits and balancing the differences between health and ward moving forward from here?
Yeah, we might just end discussing this topic for the rest of the podcast.
Yeah.
If we, yeah, you're right. Ward has been really good and it's been really bad. And on launch, it was really good. And then we brought it down a bit. Not enough. So there's going to be more changes to slightly nerf Ward where it needs a nerf, but we're also buffing health. I think the first thing would be that int is just a very good stat to stack. You get all the great stuff, especially for specific classes like Acolyte and a Mage. So we are reducing the ward retention you get from int from 4 to 2%, and then we're gonna be
int is cut in half. That's actually funny. People in my community were like, they should have made it 1%.
Targeting cases where skills or passives are just very good at generating ward out of like nowhere. I think we gave you a picture of one of the nodes for Acolyte.
The putrid? I can bring it up.
Yeah, that one.
Leave my acolytes alone.
You get ward when you hit a target that is afflicted by Spirit Plague. So that is just whenever you hit something that has it, you get ward. With 3 points, that's like 12 ward per hit. And with some cool skill interactions, you can get a lot of hits per second. Especially because stuff like Bone Curse is considered a hit. So you get like double the effect there. So what we're doing is we are curtailing the power of like these absolutely insane amount of applications per second. But we're buffing the individual cases, so builds that aren't like abusing those a million hits a second are gonna be better, and those that were abusing are gonna be worse. So we got cases like this in a couple items. I think just a couple rings that have like ward on hit and stuff like that. And then overall, ward is just like way too easy to get from passives and skills. So we're moving a lot of that into items. So there's a couple new like I think affixes forward. So it takes more gear now to get that.
So basically, the power's moved more away from the passive, the free access, and moved into gear progression to build it up. And just if everyone's clear, this one up here is the current version of Beauty Recovery, and the one down here is after the changes on the bottom here.
Yeah, so numbers going up. It's a big buff, right?
It's quite extensive, yes.
Unless you were hitting like 100 times a second, then
Then
it's a nerf. Yeah. As for health, health was basically all tied to gear in most cases. You get a decent amount of passives and whatnot, but then we have like these crazy items like the Stout Idol that has a double health. It has increased health and it has a flat health. So I think we removed the flat health from there.
Yep.
And then because
Double health idol gone.
it's now we're nerfing the health belts there. So what we ended up doing is we're buffing some of the health values on affixes. I think we introduced 1 or 2 new health affixes, like hybrid affixes. One is regen, so regen is going to be pretty good. Dispatch, which previously haven't really been. It's only like couple very specific builds that were really good with regen, but now it's going to be
like the
more
Vessel of
available.
Strife, right, from Julra. Is it?
Yeah. Oh, that item might specifically have been nerfed a tiny bit to compensate.
God damn it.
Yep. And then we also increased the health gain per level. So I think it's currently 8 health you get whenever your character levels up. In Season 2, it's going to be 10. So you're just going to get more health just from levels as well from that.
Do you
And
think
health potions are more effective now too.
Okay. Do you guys think that this is going to be enough to get like a balance between the two so you don't feel like you're scuffed for playing life or the other ward instead? Do you feel like they're going to be pretty balanced with this, or how's the confidence in this?
You're going to see health builds, especially in classes that are good with it, and you hopefully also seeing ward builds for those classes, especially like Mage and Acolyte, because they have a lot of support for that, so they should be good with it. As for like the ultimate, like I've seen a lot of talk about we should just cap ward to be like a percentage of your max health or something like that. I mean, we could do that, but it's just boring.
Correct.
It's just boring. We'd rather try to slowly balance it so they're both really good and cool, and maybe some hybrids where you do both and stuff like that. Because it's just fun trying to break the game with stuff like that.
So there you have it. New affixes buffed to health, and then ward is getting reeled in. Intelligence is cut in half. Ward is moving more towards gear and out of passive trees. Now, sticking with defenses, let's talk about dots.
Crazy differences in performance between different ailments. And the question is if this is going to be tackled in the new season with ailments specifically. I'm not talking about just taking the damage from ailments, but also applying those type of ailments. So is there something you can cover or leak for us here regarding this for Season 2?
I mean, there's no leak. There's only teasers and knowledge, I guess. You'll be taking less damage from damage over time overall, just globally. Enemies will deal less damage to you now. I think it's like 15%.
15, yeah.
That's
then,
crazy.
On top of that, corruption. The corruption providing more damage to enemies. That is half as effective for dots. So if they, grant 200% more damage, they only get 100% damage for dots.
Okay. Because I've been doing some rounds talking to some Last Epoch creators that mainly make content for Last Epoch, and Sagan Survives is a content creator that I was talking to that had a question specifically about damage over time that you take because of how reducing the dot damage taken in higher corruptions it has become such a mandatory stat. So the changes you were talking about, lowering the corruption, the impact on that specifically is the solution to that problem. Am I understanding you correctly then?
Yeah, right. So we could just introduce more different mechanics for you to reduce dot damage, but then that puts more pressure on gear, which you already have a lot of pressure on gear for damage mitigation, because we're scaling like the damage and health of enemies with corruption like the same time. So they end up doing more damage before they die from your damage. So it's very heavily lopsided to just investing into defense in the end game in last Epoch currently.
Now let's talk about Electrify.
So specifically 2 elements tied to Sentinel. So Electrify, which is like the holy lightning damage over time, is getting a lot more support for Paladin now. I think you might have a couple pictures of that somewhere.
Yeah,
We do
that's-
actually.
Yeah.
It was just so buried and like impossible to get things that scaled with it, and there was
It
this
had
very
like a
little
couple
synergy hidden
uniques.
around.
Yeah, it had
Yeah.
like a couple uniques that were basically you had to use them. They're probably still gonna use some of them. I think we nerfed some of them a tiny bit because we made the
This picture on this body armor is also tier 1. That same affix will also drop on helmets.
it's just more accessible to actually scale Electrify as a Paladin now. So we introduced a new affix, which I think spawns both on helmets and body armors, which is just Electrify chance with lightning skills. And then on the Paladin passive tree, there's some more Electrify support, as well as a new, like an actual scaler. There's a new node that provides you more lightning damage over time based on your crit multi.
Fair
So
enough.
if you have like 300% crit multi from gear, so this is the crit multi on top of the base. So the base crit multi isn't calculated here. So if you have like 300% crit multi, that's I think 150% more lightning damage over time. So maybe there's some hybrid hit
Hybrid
lightning
dot
bolts out there. Who knows?
crit build.
I think we've got a picture for that one too, actually.
Yeah, we do.
The
Judgment of Storm
yes, I have.
is the node. Yes.
Here's the Electrify example.
Judgment,
Judgment
of the Storm.
This is for the Electrify support for Paladins.
Yeah.
Which has a threshold node. A very important point out. It's a threshold node, which we kind of want to see more in Acolyte, by the way.
Yes.
Chance, lightning, rest, shred, and electrify chance. And the threshold is you'll deal more lightning damage over time, multiplicative with other modifiers per 2% added crit multi above the base 200. So that's how you bypass the base. Then say we added or crit multi above that is what's adding to it.
Yep.
All
And
right.
somebody in the chat asked if this affix is only for Sentinels, and yes. Sentinel, well, Paladin more specifically, because it's the ailment is like the holy themed, so that's why it's very heavily tied to just Sentinel and Paladin specifically.
Does that mean that the electrify modifier would only show up on Sentinel specific items?
Yes, that affix, the Electrify chance with lightning skills, is only for Sentinels.
So now let's talk about time rot.
A ailment now that you can make pretty crazy. We didn't want to just make it like every other ailment, which would be uncapped, which caused a lot of the problems with balance and just tech issues. We're not gonna probably go into too much with that, but that meant we had to have like unique scalars for it, basically, because like uncapped ailments, you get like pen, you get damage, you get duration, like how many you can apply as soon as possible. So since time rod is still capped at 12, we need to find basically more multipliers for it that allow you to scale the damage of it. So one of them is time rod chance with void skills, and this does not account for the chance on individual skills. So this is like the global stat. So if you have like Warpath, let's say had like 100% chance, that wouldn't apply for this. So this is just globally from like passive skill trees, not skill trees, gear like idols, or in this case again body armor and helmet, because we made an affix for that. And then we have slow, because that's very thematic. Time rod, it's a time based, right? So we have slow, and then we have the lowest of, I think it's attack, cast, and throwing speeds. So you have to invest in all of those 3 stats, and it picks the lowest as the multiplier. So there's you can get this to do some crazy damage now. Previously it was just basically a debuff for some abilities, like Erasing Strike does like more damage if enemy has 12 stacks of it, but now you can just make Time Rod actually do damage, which is pretty exciting.
No, for sure. I mean, this one's really, really interesting. You guys were talking about this in the previous interview.
Time rot is going to be a fan favorite. Moving on to the topic of juicing maps.
It's actually very challenging to try to come up with systems that allow you to do that kind of choosing that doesn't devolve into this massive amount of preparation for every single area that you go to. We have maybe, I think we have a few of the Woven Echoes that will have an impact on other Woven Echo, like other echoes, also sometimes in Woven Echoes when you do them. But we don't have crazy plans or adding this patch, anything like that you would think of, like scarabs or tablets and towers in PoE 2 or stuff like that. We're very on the
No
go
towers.
in, have fun, you get out, then you go into the next one instead of setting up half an hour to go in and then do a bunch of stuff.
Fair enough. You guys talked about in the teaser was showing the inventory tabs, right? Can we assume that these juicers, if you will be available in a separate tab, or will we have our inventory clogged up with these?
Every single Woven
they
Echo
are-
has a slot on the tab, yes.
Just to verify.
Yeah, they each have their own individual slots that they go into, and there's an option to have them go directly there automatically without having to sort them there manually. They just go in. They never touch your inventory if you don't want them to. But if you do want them to go into your inventory, you can.
Okay, so you can't
If you-
move them out
yeah.
if you want to. Okay.
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
that,
you can. I think it's shift right click. You can just spam those, and they will be dropped from the inventory to the ground if you want to. And obviously, you can just pick them up on your inventory and then press the button to slurp them in at the same time if you like that. But yeah, they will all be with you all the time. And I think it's also shared between the stash. So yeah, you'll just have them there with you all the time. Yeah.
They should be stash linked. So yeah, so all of your like non-solo softcore characters have them, and all of your non-solo hardcore characters have a separate set. They're not shared between those things. So everyone that shares a stash shares the Woven Echoes stash.
Now let's talk corruption. EHG has said ad nauseum that this game is balanced around 300 corruption. Hey, 90% of players don't even make it to empowered. So the people playing 500 corruption, 1,000 corruption, those are like the 0.01%. This question was asked once again.
In general. So favor farming, which is also impacting item acquisition, experience gain, and LP item chances, for example. But most importantly, favor farming being such a big factor in how you progress your characters. It seems very heavily favored around a 1,000 corruption at the moment, in the current state of the game at least. So I guess the question comes down to what the intended corruption that EHG wants people to consider to be the actual end game for good and great or beyond builds.
Before Mike goes on a rant here, one thing that we didn't say about the boss ward is that it also just decays faster now.
Oh, that's even better. Thank you.
Carver and I debate this. We were prepping for this. We actually got into a bit of a debate on this topic ourselves. So it's something that is, it's not always cut and dry on what the best idea is. And I think as long as there's like crazy, like extreme outlier builds, there's gonna be it's gonna be a bit of an issue. And bringing those extreme outlier builds down is probably the most important part of balancing this, I think.
So where would you say a good end game build? What is the considered end game corruption level?
Here it comes.
Standpoint, then?
I would say if you have a build.
You go ahead.
Sorry,
go ahead.
I'll go. Yeah.
You go.
If you, like Mike was about to say, it's very hard to quantify that because there's so many things that you can do with your builds. And if you make nothing but bad decisions with your builds, it probably shouldn't be able to do a certain amount of corruption. And we want there to be options for people to also make bad builds. Because if you can't make a bad build, you can't really make a good build because everything's the same. As for, let's say that you have the decent understanding of the game and how to make a build, if it can comfortably do like 300 corruption, I'd call it a successful build.
There you have it. Moving on to Uber Aberoth.
That's fair. Is the Uber Aberoth fight accessed through the same method as the normal one?
No, kind of. You need to kill a normal Aberoth to get to Uber Aberoth. It drops a Woven Echo that you put into your Echo Web if you have a high enough corruption on it, and then you'll fight Uber. And important to note is that even though it is in the Echo Web, modifiers or corruption does not affect the difficulty of that. It's a static fight, and you will have access to it way before than your character is ready to fight it.
Yes.
So similar to Diablo.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes. It is a lot harder fight than normal Uberoth.
So a good follow-up question to this is actually what corruption is the Uberoth balance around, and what do you expect players to be at when they can't clear him?
Can we tell
lot.
you when you can access it? Is that something we can say? I don't know.
Yeah, I think we can say when you're able to access it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 500 corruption.
500. And that is
you need minimum 500 to access it. But even if you're able to farm 500, it's going to be a very
difficult
very
fight.
difficult
Yes.
fight.
all right.
Yes.
So you should be significantly higher for it to be a comfortable fight, is what you're saying.
Yeah, the interesting bit is that once you put it into your Echo Web, if you fail, you can just you can go again.
Ah, that's
There
nice.
there might be some stuff like maybe not giving you the loot. I'm not sure, but we probably do need to do something there. But yeah, you can just keep fighting it.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Unfortunately, we have come to the final question for Dev Chat 165 Part 2. If you missed Part 1, I will link it at the end of the video. Gazzy, very nice job with the interview. Great questions. Carvin Mike, thank you for your answers and giving us more info than maybe has ever been shared as we've been waiting for the highly anticipated Season 2. We have Subathon 3 coming up for Season 2, April 2nd. It's going to be absolutely insane. Special guests, game giveaways. Community's going to have me doing all types of crazy stuff. Should be a whole lot of fun. ActionRPG.com has been officially launched. You can go over there. Right now it's in its beta form. We're just looking for people to push buttons and hit everything. It just helps us with some data completely non-monetized. I am done with this video. What's going to take out the video is a discussion around alts. Gazzy, Mike, and Carve, take it away.
So what about the time requirement on your very first character? There are catch-up mechanics in your alts, but the time requirement in moving from normal monos into the corrupted versions on your first character, what's the changes happening there, if any?
I think the only changes for that come from the Weaver tree. I don't think we have any other changes coming, but you can specialize your Weaver tree a bit so that you can get there faster. Not by much, but it's already pretty fast. If you just push one timeline with the mechanics that exist in game, like Glyph of Envy, and then you use the catch-up mechanic for the other timelines. It's surprisingly fast already. And speaking of the alts, we are adding couple new cool things for alts to be faster. So the normal timeline is now shared. So if you have a character in Empowered Monoliths and you make an alt character, you don't need to go through all of them anymore. You just go do one of the 90s, I believe, and you go straight to Empowered again if you want to.
That is a massive
And then,
change.
yes. And then the other one is we had items to push corruption faster, but let's say that you have that one character at 1,000 corruption.
Yeah.
It can feel a bit daunting to think, okay, if I have like this crazy gear prepared for my next character, and you just want to go, fight actual harder corner with that. It takes a while to get back to the 1,000. So one of the Woven Echoes allows you to catch up corruption from the highest corruption in the stash. So if you have one character at 1,000 corruption and then you make the alt, once you complete the Woven Echo, it gets to that corruption that the other character was.
Oh, that's also really big. These are good changes.
That's very big. That's very big, yes.
And that's something that you can farm on the first character and then use on the second character still because it's shared across the stash as well.
Nice.
The only play mode that doesn't have that is if you're playing solo character found, because it's a like actual full individual character and stash with nothing shared.
Yep.
But solo account found and then just no challenges past that.
Yeah, it is stash shared. So yeah, everything, as long as the two characters have the same access to the same stash, then they will have this mechanic working with them.